Thank you. Okay, first couple points are going to be a bit squiffy then. Excuse me, I'm just going to... And welcome back for the opening pull of the second game of our Tri-Series as the New Zealand Opens team face off against the Australian Opens team under 20s. New Zealand to come out on offense. My name is Blair Monroe. It is an absolute pleasure to bring you the very best in Trans-Tasman Ultimate. Some great pressure. We see Australia come down in a zone defense early. We've got players calling for the disc, but there's a lot of pressure. Slowly tightening up into a match defense. New Zealand heavily pressured by the Australian offense. Puts a big forehand up, looking for Finn Collins, who's unable to secure that one, number 78. Not able to come down with it. A great opportunity here as Australia get the disc working back upfield. The score currently 0-0. My name is Blair Monroe. It is a pleasure to be here with you in drizzerable Tamaki Makaurau on a Saturday morning. What better place to be? We see Australia come out in a horizontal stack, trying to create space in the under space towards the disc and also in the deep space towards the end zone. Not firing up. A big huck, faked off. Noah Moss with Zabel. Not able to get a touch on that one. Joseph Morrissey trying to put a point on the board for the team. Great layout bid, but it's not enough. Moss keeps possession in the end zone. Waiting for something to develop in that space. It doesn't come. Finds Morrissey as New Zealand force them back. There is the huge play. Amazing bid from Jack Lewis to shut that one down, giving the disc back to New Zealand. And so, one turn apiece, no scores currently. We've just had a super exciting match between the under-20 women's side from Australia and the under-20 women's side from Japan. Who's got the read? It goes back to Australia. Sasha Bell with a great run through interception. Tipped off the hands and secured as we go back the other way. Very dynamic game. As I often say, if you want to see clinical ultimate, you watch the women's. If you want to see big shots and risk taking, under 20 men's is about as good as it gets. There it is, a forehand. Goes for it, layout bids, not enough. Owen Ellington takes to the ground. Not Ellington, sorry. That's Walker. And so, New Zealand back on defense. Noah Moss to initiate. Finds Zabel. And a foul has been called. So just a reminder for those watching at home, Ultimate is a self-officiated game. Players take it upon themselves to learn the rules, to make calls on the field. It's also a non-contact game. That incidental contact that impacted the ability of Joseph Morrissey to secure the disc means that there's a foul called, so there's a stoppage. Players will have a discussion about what they feel should have happened, and in this case, the disc has gone back as players were unable to come to an agreement. Great interception there, and a violation has been called. So again, this time a stall count was given. A stall count was made, so players have 10 seconds once they're in possession of the disc to release it. A stall was counted and then contested in this case. So with that contested stall count, the disc should go back. and come in on a maximum of 8. So 10 seconds, but it looks like that stall's been retracted because New Zealand has a player in a really good position. Lewis, number 49, works back. Swinson. Big crossfield shot. Woodward to Lewis for the score. There it is. First point goes to New Zealand. Some great work there. Amazing work by New Zealand to put that first point on the board. A lot of dynamic plays. We've seen some big layout blocks already. Some huge intensity from both sides. New Zealand holding for the first point as we go 1-0. Number 70. They don't 17. Thank you. So New Zealand with a first hold as we go 1-0. Now to come out on defense, applying pressure again. We're seeing a similar. Just use the dark one as New Zealand because it's black. We see again Australia, that culture, whole team taking the line to make sure everyone's on the same page. With a big rip, carried a little bit by the wind. Is it going to touch down back in bounds? Only just. Australia fields, New Zealand taking a little bit of time to get in defensive position. Swinson applying pressure on the mark. Upton with the disc, puts one through. Comfortably intercepted by Woodward. Works back with Swinson. A pick has been called, so just again, we've had a couple of calls this game already. As a non-contact sport, if a player's pursuit of their opposition is interrupted by the movements of another player on the field, then a pick can be called and players have the opportunity to catch up. Just outside the end zone. Ty Lawson resets, finds Swinson, threads one through. Great work as New Zealand go up by 2. A crucial break. Caleb Milne for the comfortable score. 2 up over Australia in the second match of our 2022 Tri-Series. New Zealand, Japan, and Australia. Our Opens under 20 teams. Amazing intensity by both these sides. Really dynamic play on display here for you today. Two points early to New Zealand. Wind reasonably steady. A light drizzle. Nothing too impactful in terms of conditions for either of these teams to worry about just yet. Great intensity, great energy by both of these teams, firing early. New Zealand to come out on defense. Bryn Douglas, huge pull, but goes a little high, goes a little out of bounds. We see the brick signal given by the Australian side, who will bring the disc in about 18 metres in front of their own end zone in the midfield. So there's no positional advantage to be gained by having the disc thrown out of bounds. Moss early. Finds Matt Calder, puts a big forehand up. Lot of coverage underneath. The defense, a very, very collision-heavy defense. Good thing we've got a few medical professionals here on the sideline. And a foul has been called. Maybe questionable aggression there by the New Zealand side. One of the perils of having young, athletic gentlemen out on the field like this, the intensity, they can get quite G'd up. And so we're seeing a spirit captain come in to help facilitate that discussion. Self-officiated sport again, so players take it upon themselves to learn the rules and have that conversation. Question as to whether or not there was a foul. Certainly looked very, very scrappy. It was a great shot by Calder, going up and high. And as it faded, Australian players had really good position. They weren't able to secure it, potentially because of the play by those New Zealand defenders. And so the call has been contested. New Zealand has not conceded that the contact made an impact. And so the disc will go back to the thrower. So anytime a foul is contested or a call is contested, play returns to the last uncontested possession, which in this case was the mighty Matt Calder for the Australian side, with the disc just inside their own offensive half. Marked by Braden Jones. So players return to where they were. It's like the foul never happened. Great attempt by Chen to go up and then attempt on the second bid. But it's not quite enough. New Zealand looking to work early. Douglas tries it. Calder threads through the middle, puts one away. Turns immediately back the other way. Swinson on a big disc. Douglas puts it up. He is looking for Josh Cooper and he finds him deep in the end zone. Plenty of separation, plenty of time for Cooper to walk that one down. New Zealand going up by 3. Australia needing to turn on the Jets if they want to slow down this New Zealand momentum early. And it looks like a timeout has been called, so a great opportunity for Australia. They'll take that huddle. They'll force New Zealand to cool down a bit. They don't get to carry that energy and momentum into the next point immediately. That's one of the biggest things that you'll see in Ultimate, particularly at this level. The timing of calling those timeouts is hugely critical. Slowing down an opponent's momentum. We've seen New Zealand with a hold and back-to-back breaks. They're G'd up, they're fired up, that energy is there, and this is an opportunity for Australia to just put a cork in that and then focus on their own game. Veteran move there by the Australian side, but we'll see how New Zealand respond after the half as they come out on defense. Some great athleticism, great dynamicism on display here. We've seen some huge layout bids. Matt Calder in that last point did a great job of generating that turn back for Australia. And then what looked like might have been a foot block as Hugo Swinson sticks out his big toe, generating possession back for New Zealand and able to get Bryn Douglas the disc in order to send a long shot deep into the end zone for Josh Cooper, number 6, for the score. 3-0 in favour of New Zealand. Come on, Australia, you didn't come all the way over here for this. Fire yourselves up. Let's get going. Let's put ourselves a game on. We want to see what you are capable of, gentlemen. We know you are capable of so much. We want to see it. And so that's probably the conversation that's being had in that timeout right now. Still anybody's game. A 3-point swing has been known to happen at the drop of a hat in a game of Ultimate, particularly when the conditions are like this. Just a light drizzle, not a huge amount of wind. Conditions are not currently favoring either side or either team. It's about which team is able to get their heads in, which team is able to get dialed in, and which team can turn it on for us here today in Tamaki Makaurau. So which team is going to be the first to break the huddle? Which team is going to let their fire burn? Which team is going to come out hard on this next point? Will it be the Australian offense driving aggressively to put their first point on the board? Or will it be the New Zealand defense trying their absolute best to pin down the Australian side and put another point on the score for themselves? The under-20 side, supported by the coaching staff, Warren Buckingham and Ben Waller, a strong and renowned player on the New Zealand scene in his own right. The conversation often comes up post-tournament with players. They'll talk about who they think the best player in the country in a given division, in a given age bracket might be. Ben Wallace is a name that comes up as a consistent all-rounder. He's fast, he's agile, he's got those throws. And having a player of his pedigree involved in the coaching and development of this under-20 side is definitely showing. It's demonstrating what these players are capable of. And the scoreline, 3-0 in favour of New Zealand, is demonstrating that the same. So that timeout really has cooled these teams down a little bit. We're not seeing that same amount of energy. It's been a long delay between points, perhaps a little bit longer than we might have expected. But New Zealand now to come out on defense. Australia, a fierce 7 to take the line. Ready to fire out strong. There's the pull, comes in a little bit low, touches down early. Defense not quick enough to stop that first pass. Upton with the disc for Australia. A great low one-handed grab. Taifa puts one up. Huge forehand shot. Fades a little bit towards that near sideline, so position goes back to New Zealand. Are they able to hold that disc? Jack Lewis to initiate. Right in front of his own defensive end zone. Hugely pressured by the ever-impressive Foster. Great undercut, but it's marked off. New Zealand having to go back the other way. Working that far sideline. Caleb Milne finds Luke Spur. Back to Lewis. Back to Milne. There is the crossfield backhand. Hodgson puts a forehand up. Bit of a read. There it is. Great to see. Fantastic work there by the New Zealand side. Great work by New Zealand as we go 4-0 up over Australia. An early, strong start by the New Zealand side. Australia are a little slow to adapt. Still anybody's game. It could very well be a case of those first few point jitters. When the other team, when your opposition is up by a few, it can be a little nerve-wracking. You want to do something big. You want to play big in order to swing the momentum in the other way. Taifa with that big forehand. That could have been what he was looking for, but it generated a turn. Lewis was initiating, able to work up the field. Some great work by the New Zealand defense there to put another one on the board, going 4 up over Australia. And with the Japanese contingent only sending a women's team, Our open division is going to be a best of 3 between New Zealand and Australia. Finn Collins with a huge high pull, lot of fade, lot of float, plenty of time. And it touches down. It's borderline as to whether or not that was in or not. A mighty pull regardless, perfectly positioned. Go the Tron. Noah Moss puts up a big forehand. It fades early. Who's going to get it? Great work there, Matthew Zabel. But it looks like it might have been called down, so that will be a turn. New Zealand with an opportunity. Collins on the near sideline, just outside the outstretched hands of Petrie. Works the far sideline, near sideline, sorry, finds Ellington. Great upline cut, but it's looked off. Woodward tries to shift the defense. He's not able to do it. Leishman, but it looks like a pick was called and a bit of contact on the ground. And an injury has been called. Sam Cooper to take a substitution. So the disc will come back in. It's been returned. Hayes to substitute, Noah Hayes. Woodward with the disc. Great work shifting the mark there. Finn Collins takes it down. Threads one all the way through. Finds Cooper just in the red zone. Cooper has to work back, find Woodward right through. Finn Collins on the doorstep. Huge pressure, but he puts a hammer up. And there it is. Hayes immediately post-substitution, but it looks like the disc might go back. Unsure exactly what the call was. So as a self-officiated sport, those players are making those calls themselves, but it's important for them to be able to signal to everyone what's happening. And we just get a comfortable repeat. Quick little dishy pass. Finn Collins from Hamilton manages to put one across. Hayes on a nice cut right across the front of the end zone for the score as we go 5-0. New Zealand up over Australia. Fantastic start to Kahu, the under-20 team. If you like what you see and you want to support these young New Zealand boys and also help New Zealand Ultimate to bring you more events like this one, supported, of course, by Ulti TV, the very best in the business. Buy a virtual ticket to an event like this and help us bring more Ultimate to your screens. So there's a link in the description below. And also, after you've done that, if you've got a bit of extra spare change, as always, head across to patreon.com/ultitv and give us your money. The more money we have, obviously, the more we can put on for you, the more Ultimate we can bring to you. The very best sport in all the world, the very best countries in the world, New Zealand, Japan, Australia, here for 2 days in Tamaki Makaurau, putting on the event of a lifetime, the 2022 Tri-Series. My name is Blair Monroe. Again, it is the privilege of a lifetime to be here, to be your eyes and ears on the ground, to talk you through what I see, what these players are doing, the athleticism, the display, the hustle, the grit, the grind, everything that they are doing on display for you, leaving nothing behind, wanting to put on the best possible show, not just for you, but also for themselves. And so Australia to come out on offense yet again. 1 hold, 4 back-to-back breaks, 5 on the bounce for New Zealand. A great first start. Katipo with the pull. There it is, a nice high shot. It's going all the way the length of the field. There's a lot of float underneath that. There's a great opportunity for the chase to get in front, stopping that first pass, and they've done it. It's Douglas and Hayes on the defense, not able to shut that one down as Australia are able to work the far sideline. Jack Donaldson, but they generate the turn and thread one through early. Swinson to Douglas. Hugo Swinson puts one across, finds Bryn Douglas in the end zone almost immediately. Huge pressure from Katapo there. Good defense starts with the pull. A pull like that, huge and high and long, well positioned, really beautifully floated into the end zone. Plenty of time for the defense to get into position. Able to apply that pressure, stopping that first pass. The stall count was starting to get a little bit high. Australia were able to work to the sideline as they came back. There was the interception. There was the break opportunity. New Zealand quickly pick up the disc, finish off that point to a wide open Bryn Douglas in the end zone. Some great work by New Zealand there as we go 6-0 in a game to 15. Halftime will be scored when the first team to reach 8 points does so. We are a little over 25 minutes into our game. Australia need to change something up if they want to stay in it. They definitely are capable of it. We've seen the kind of grit and hustle that is instilled in the youth ultimate scene in Australia already. We saw the under-20 women's side for Australia put a huge amount of pressure. They never let up the intensity against Japan in our opening match. Despite a hefty score deficit, they still worked hard every single point. We know what the culture in Australian ultimate is like. The question is this the point where the Australian men's under-20 team are going to put that pressure on and show us how it's done? Collins with the pull, hoping for a repeat of the previous performance. We're seeing a nice high pull, lot of float, plenty of time for the chase to get down there. And we are seeing 3 New Zealand defenders looking to pressure early. Cooper tries to get a touch, but he's not able to. We find Calder with the disc. Works with Upton. Moss puts a big forehand up. It's an option. Hayes says no. Hayes gets up underneath it. That's exactly what New Zealand want. It's exactly what Australia were hoping to avoid. They put those long shots up. They trusted their players. Disc had a little bit too much edge on it. Hayes was able to get underneath. New Zealand to initiate out of a vertical stack using channels on either side of the field. There's a long shot. Finn Collins puts up the forehand. There's a read and a mistimed jump on the defense. Absolutely ridiculous. Great defensive play there by Eden Walker for the Australian side, but it is not quite enough. Sean Nicholson gets up underneath that one. 7-0 to the New Zealand side. And it's just these little adjustments that need to be made. Both teams can execute off these long options. We've seen the kind of throwers that both of these sides have. Bryn Douglas can put one just about anywhere on the field. Finn Collins has an absolute cannon that he just let rip for a score. Almost the entire length of the field off that one. Australia have done the same. We've seen Noah Moss, number 12 for the Australian side. We know that Matt Calder has a big cannon as well, that he can absolutely let one rip. And it's just as to those little adjustments, that precision on the disc, where it's going to touch down, how the shape of that disc is going to change in the air, positioning that for the intended receiver. And it's those little executional tweaks that need to be made in order for Australia to come back in this game. 7-0 in favour of New Zealand at the moment. 1 point away from taking half. New Zealand to come out on defense again. And there's the rip of a pull. It goes long. Bit of float. Looks like it's going to fade out the far sideline. And a brick is given. Upton gives the signal. Jake Upton, 58 for Australia to initiate the offense from the midfield. Australia to come out in a horizontal offense again. trying to use the depth. We know they've got those long shots. We see the big shot, looked off. Lewis trying to pressure that lane, slightly overthrown just outside the hands of Foster. That's what New Zealand are looking for, 1 point away from taking half. Trading the Australians' horizontal offense for a New Zealand vertical. We're trying to create channels up either side of the field. Swinson with the desk, threads a laser beam all the way through, finding Luke Spur. Resets to Swinson. And threads it all the way through. Some great work there by New Zealand to take half. A perfect half for New Zealand. Fantastic work. 1 hold, 7 back-to-back breaks. A great opportunity early in the game too. 30 minutes on the clock, a little more than 30 minutes. New Zealand up by 8 to take half. It's the second game of our tri-series. The under-20 men's New Zealand team versus the under-20 men's Australian team. Fantastic work on display by both of these sides. But my name is Blair Monroe. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. But we'll take a very short break while these teams take half, and we'll come back for the conclusion of this game very, very shortly. And we are back for the second half of the second match of our 2022 Tri-Series here in Tamaki Makaurau, hosted by the beautiful Auckland Grammar School. Kātipo, the under-20s New Zealand Opens team versus the under-20 Australian Open team. The score currently 8-0 in favour of New Zealand. We've seen an impressive performance here today. A little chat with the under-20s coach, Warren Buckingham. Pretty happy with how things are going so far, but he recognises the job is not done. Again, the pendulum of ultimate swings both ways. This could very well be Australia's half. A couple of small execution errors have given New Zealand the disc right in front of their own their attacking end zone for a quick break, able to quickly chip a 3-4 metre backhand for a score. That's managed to put them up by 8. They had one offensive hold at the start of the game. 7 back-to-back breaks. A great performance by the under-20 side for New Zealand. Still an opportunity for Australia to really get fired up now to make the second half their own. As they come out on offense, hoping for a perfect start to this point. Finn Collins with the disc to pull for New Zealand to start off the second half. Leading off the last point of the previous half. Disc just touching down inside the end zone, which gave New Zealand a great opportunity to put a point on the board. Nice high disc. A lot of time for the New Zealand defense to get underneath it and again pressure that first pass. Chen finds Moss on a great undercut. Marked by Cooper. Resets to Chen. Weaving the disc backwards and forwards. Moss puts a forehand up. There it is. That's what Australia wanted. Matt Calder brings down that beautiful forehand. Moss, with a cheeky drop squat, fires off a big bomb. It goes outside the outstretched hands of Finn Collins, 78 for the defense. Calder pulls it down. Australia on the board, 8-1. This is exactly what we were hoping to happen. We have ourselves a game. No bagels, no bagels, no bagels. And so for the second time in the game, New Zealand will take to the field on offense. The Australian defensive line hoping to apply a lot of pressure. Coming out into the second half, very fired up, very ready to go. Taking that halftime to really dial in those executional tweaks. They have the ability, they have the athleticism. We saw it in the first half. There were just a few minor things that needed to be adjusted for them to walk away with points. They've shown us that they can make those adjustments, that they can keep that focus in. They have the talent to really pressure this New Zealand side. We haven't seen a lot of it in the first half. But it's the second half now. Anybody's game. Still early days. There's a lot of time for Australia to really pile on the pressure. Jake Upton puts the pull, a lot of edge. He's hoping to get a roll. Manages it. Bryn Douglas, supported by Swinson in the handler space. Threads one through to Lewis. Back to Douglas. The defense sags off just a little bit, trying to pressure that. Douglas and Swinson again, just chipping the disc with the help of Cooper to get it upfield. Threads one through to find Lewis. And Jacob Woodward pulls it down. 9-1. A cheeky game of 5v7. As New Zealand doesn't even need all of its players on that point to touch the disc in order to walk away with the score. Swinson working incredibly well with Douglas in that handler space, able to find holes in the Australian defence, chipping away at it, supported by nice cheeky undercuts by Cooper and Lewis, getting that separation from the Australian defence, getting the disc, managing to get that reset early, and then clearing back into the downfield, trying to find more openings to continue that momentum up the field. New Zealand up by 8 after a perfect first half, having conceded the first point in the second, bit back with a point of their own to come out on defense now. Ben Waller with a bit of line encouragement, maybe calling some individual matchups, recognizing where the strength of the Australian players are and recognizing who might be the best person to cover those players. Collins with the pull again, a lot lower this time, wanting to keep it in bounds. Touches down early. Able to shut down that first pass. Great pressure by the New Zealand defense. There it is. Just shutting down that first pass early. Moss, who's been doing a huge amount of work for the Australian offense, not able to get the disc and really initiate anything in that in the downfield space. And a miscommunication. The throw goes wide. Collins to initiate. Hoping to put out a score. Got a Josh Cooper isolation play. Comes down with it. New Zealand using the entire width of the end zone, creating as much opportunity as possible for Cooper to work with. They recognize he had that matchup on the turn. They were able to utilize it and really punch one through as we go 10-1 New Zealand over Australia. And that's the thing. Australia came out into the second half early, strong, confident. They put that point on the board. And New Zealand answering with a hold of their own immediately might have rattled them. We're seeing those little miscommunications creep back into the Australian offense. New Zealand quick to capitalize on it. Some great work by the New Zealand defense generating those turns early, isolating Cooper in the end zone for a quick score. Douglas to pull for New Zealand. A great start to the second half of the second game of our tri-series. Very high disc. A lot of time for the defense to get under pressure. Cooper and Swinson applying pressure early. Douglas a bit slow, lets that disc come off. Australia in the center field. Finds Calder. A big miscommunication there. He went to wind one up. Moss looking to make an upline cut. It didn't come. As Moss pulled out, the throw went away. It generates a turn. Spur with the disc now. Finds Swinson right on the end zone. Douglas hoping something develops in the downfield space. Puts one up. Cooper under double coverage. There's the turn. Moss to initiate. Calder streaking deep. Not quite a hand block. Contact called on that block. And it's accepted. So both players recognize. Maybe I didn't play the disc. So the call's accepted. Moss retains possession. Dean Milne tries to work that far sideline with the support of Andy Chen, but it doesn't come away. Douglas and Swinson, two absolute workhorses for the under-20 side for New Zealand, doing a huge amount of work in just maintaining possession and position on the field. Finds Swinson early. Oh, secure hands. Spur with the disc. Back to Douglas. The call from the sideline for cuts. A bit of a sketchy throw, fades away. Bounces between Walker and Swinson. Back to Spur for the score. Really pressuring that far sideline. 11-1, New Zealand up over Australia in the second match of our tri-series. The under-20 Opens teams facing off the first of 3 matches over the next couple of days. Hungry for an Australian comeback. The whole team takes the line, making sure that everybody knows what is required of the 7 players on the field and what is required of their support, their sideline, the cheering, the coverment, the encouragement, the information. The Australian offense definitely capable, a force to be reckoned with. Just those minor adjustments needing to be made to prevent those turnovers that are giving New Zealand great break opportunities very, very close to their own end zone. We've seen a few points for New Zealand come away right in front of the end zone. We know Australia has a long game. They do put those shots up. The pull goes lower to the far sideline, a little bit of skim across the ground, looking to move the disc early. Blackburn tries to thread one through, finds Taifa. Working the sideline now, Jake Upton in the red zone. Recenters to Trans-Tasman. Great pressure by the New Zealand defense there to get possession back. Jack Lewis to initiate. New Zealand again, that vertical stack that we've seen a lot. Noah Wall with the disc now. Upton not able to secure the block. Goes back to Wall, who puts a long one up, but it's fading hard right. Touching down outside of the playing field. The disc will come in where it first crossed the line. Australia with a great opportunity here to work that far sideline. We know they've got the long game available to them to do it. Blackburn to pick up on the far sideline, supported by Upton in the midfield space. A great attempt there by Taifa, but the defense was just inside, able to generate that turn. Lewis to pick up. Puts a big forehand up that far sideline. And a foul has been called and accepted by the Australian defense. Huge plays by Taifa. But ultimate is a non-contact sport, so New Zealand retain possession, only a few meters away from their own end zone. Resets to Lewis. Great defensive pressure there to shut down the cut by Wall. McGregor in that handler space applying a huge amount of pressure on the defense. McGregor trying to shut down the reset, but he's not able to do it. Can shut down the next pass, but there it is for New Zealand. Finn Walker, 12-1. Great patience by the New Zealand side. A lot of the turns being generated very, very close to their attacking end zone. And so applying that pressure that close to a score, it does take a lot of mental fortitude to remain focused, to keep that vision wide, to not try and force the disc. And New Zealand are doing a great job of finding those spaces, creating those spaces, and managing to convert from those defensive breaks. So in this game to 15, New Zealand 4 points away from a victory in their first match in this Trans-Tasman series, the first of 3, New Zealand versus Australia for the under-20 men's. Australia 1 point on the board, which if you think about it, is half of 11. But Australia are a long road ahead of them if they want to walk away with a victory in this match. Some New Zealand standards out there. Walker, Collins, Swinson, Cooper, Hayes. Finn Collins with the disc, gives the signal for readiness. Answered by the Australians. There's the pull. Nice and high, a lot of float. That wind working to their advantage. Touches down in the defensive end zone, but Moss is able to get the disc. Not enough pressure from Cooper to stop that one getting away. Cooper manages to shut down Moss on that far sideline. Joseph Morrissey on the mark, trying to shut down the long arms of Finn Collins from Hamilton. And he's able to do it. An uncharacteristic throwaway by Finn Collins. The disc immediately blading into the ground. And so momentum swings back the other way. Moss looking to initiate. Australia abandoning their horizontal stack, moving towards a vertical. Morrissey back to Moss, pressured by Cooper. Finn Collins trying to shut down the strike cut, manages to do it. Matthew Zabel. Huge movement by Moss. But a great big bid by Caleb Milne for New Zealand to generate the turn. Collins supported by Milne in the downfield space. Great take by Milne. Finds Hayes near sideline. Reworks the center. Morrissey's not able. A travel is called. Violation has been called. So players have to establish a pivot foot once they've retained possession of the disc. Finn Collins' deceleration changed his direction. And so that was a travel. So the disc just gets returned back. There's pressure now. Another error by Collins, despite an impressive bid by Hayes, is not able to keep that in position. We're going back the other way. New Zealand starting to get a little bit rattled on offense, not as clean as we've seen them so far. Moss, supported by Morrissey, puts a forehand up. Working the far sideline. Walker tries to reset, goes just outside the hands of Morrissey. Cooper with a cheeky fake out, manages to pull Moss off the disc. A little delicate equipment delay as Caleb Milne reties his shoes. Morrison there. There's a touch and a secure by the Australian side. Huge work on that defense, not letting it go. The work of Bell and Zabel managing to get position back for Australia. This is the fire we've been hoping to see from the Australian side. Moss again, forced to reset to find Morrissey. Pressured by Collins. With Ray Chen. Big fakes, trying to shift that mark. Finds Moss far sideline. A big shot goes up, but it's Blady. Sasha Bell comes down with it. Looks to close, finds Morrissey only one throw away from putting another score on the board. This is exactly what Australia are looking for. There he is. Moss just out throws Downey. Zach Downey, number 5. A great bid to try and keep that one in hand. Great territory for Australia. A huge opportunity for them there. But now, the fierce defense we've seen from the Australian side that is able to generate these turns back in effect. Collins, who has a full field forehand, pinned down on his defensive corner. New Zealand looking to establish a wide reset early. It's going to give Chen a lot of time to pressure that disc. Nicholson on a great undercut, manages to escape. Zabel finds back. Finn Collins puts a long one up. There's triple coverage. Who's going to come out with it? Australia with the D. It looked like Noah Moss teleporting, flying through the sky. Really quick to reinitiate. Chen off balance, trying to get that quick continuation, but that balance means the disc turfs early, not able to get to the hands of Morrissey. Collins resets to Milne. Cooper with a great undercut, but he's looked off. There's Nicholson again. Heavily pressured by Zabel. Delicate pirouette, but he finds Finn Collins, who's near the sideline now. Manages to work back towards the midfield. Milne throws one across. There it is. That's exactly what New Zealand were looking for. Walker with a great throw across field to find a wide open Hodson. New Zealand 13-1 over the Australian side. Great work by the New Zealand side. Katipo, if you like what you see and you want to support these young gentlemen, buy a virtual ticket to an event like this. Help us bring you the very best in Southern Hemisphere Ultimate. New Zealand, Australia, Japan, here this weekend. Link in the description below if you've got some dollars. New Zealand 2 points away from a win. Australia applying a lot of pressure, generating a lot of turns on defense. But it's their ability to secure those points when it matters that we're needing to see from them if they want to maintain a competitive game. Some of those Australian classics. Upton. Foster. Taifa putting in a lot of work. There's a big pull. Great find. There he is. Taifa, big backhand. It's got the length, but that edge up in the wind. Delicate wind, the higher that disc goes, the more it's going to be affected by the wind. Pushes it out towards the near sideline. A great territorial opportunity for New Zealand. And to the surprise of no one, it's Swinson and Douglas in that upfield space. Great far sideline work. Woodward resets to Swinson. What a call. Looks like an injury was called. Taifa playing absolutely out of his cleats. Takes a quick substitution. Great pressure, but they let the around go. Douglas has the disc, working with Swinson. Great pressure there. Huge defensive block by Blackburn. Great work by Australia. This is an opportunity here. Patience is the key word. Right in the red zone, only a couple of meters away from a score. Setting up an isolation play. Just thrown outside the outstretched arms of Donaldson. Foster trying to set up a great isolation route, but New Zealand saw that one coming, put an extra defender on there, poached the lane, took up that space. That throw wasn't going to come away. New Zealand in a vertical stack now. Douglas puts up the forehand, but it's low. And Blackburn says no. Australia with an opportunity now. Number 58 for Australia, Jake Upton. He's got the disc. Great work there by Stevenson to shut that one down with a layout block. Disc was thrown into traffic a little bit. Swinson and Douglas again initiating the offense. Work that far sideline, find Stevenson. Forehand to Woodward. Back to Swinson. And a pick has been called. Douglas again to Swinson. Back to Douglas. Wide open, but the Australian defense clamps down early. Leishman has to reset to Swinson. Finds Douglas very close to the end zone, wanting to close this one out. Leishman goes wide and deep, doesn't come away. Swinson, quick give and goes, tries to hit the up line, it doesn't come away. Woodward looking to reward us, cut across the front of the zone by Douglas, but has to use Swinson on that far sideline. There it is, a little comfortable backhand by Lawson, but Australia closes down. Double coverage, they generate the turn, possession goes to Australia, an opportunity to work back the other way. Foster, Allen, Foster again. In these conditions, the wet hands, those aggressive fakes to try and communicate to the downfield players. Disc slips out of his hand despite the gloves. Generates a turn for New Zealand. Are they going to be able to punish? There's Lawson right near the end zone. Quick reset to Douglas. Swinson looking to be there for a reset. Not a lot developing downfield. There was good separation there. Leishman bounces one off the chest. The disc goes back the other way. Upton to pick up. Drops the disc low. Fatigue starting to set in, a long point with a lot of turns. Which team's going to have the composure? Woodward manages to hit a great undercut, but he's looked off. Australia slowly pushing the New Zealand offense back. Another pick has been called. Jack Donaldson with an opportunity to catch up to Stevenson. A little bit of confusion as to where the disc should be. Swinson engages early, finds Douglas. Great work by Ty Lawson, finds the disc, works that sideline with Woodward. Lawson's going for it, and he pulls it down, 14-1, as the rest of the New Zealand side rush the field. 14-1, 1 point away from New Zealand walking away with their first win of the Tri-Series. First of 3 matches between the under-20 New Zealand's team and the under-20 Australian team in the open division. Some great work by both of these teams. A very wide score margin at the moment. New Zealand needing only 1 more point to walk away with this game. But neither of these teams are letting the intensity up even slightly. We're still seeing high-intensity bids. We're still seeing athletic plays. We're still seeing patience exhibited by both teams. New Zealand to take the field on defense. Douglas with a big pull. High with a lot of float. Is it going to touchdown inbounds? Yes, it is. Lewis immediately applying pressure to the throw. First throw. Spurs not able to shut it down. Australia working backwards and forwards. Putting the aggression on to secure that one. Andy Chen. Zabel threads one through the middle. Finds Downey. Lefty backhand up that far sideline. Finding Calder, who puts a big one up. Ellington doesn't get there in time. Sasha Bell right on the end zone. Has to work back. Finds Matt Calder. The pressure is there. Huge run through. Bryn Douglas says no. Shuts that one down despite a great upline effort by Matthew Zabel. Hoping to put another point on the board for the Australian side. It doesn't come away. Australian defense now having to apply a lot of pressure. They're very, very close to their own end zone. The littlest bit of effort might get them back on the board. Ellington wide open. Now marked by Bell. Douglas puts one across field. There's the run through. Isaac Petrie. Andy Chen to pick up and initiate, hoping to close this point out for the Australian side. A great little isolation route by Morrissey, but it's not enough. He tries again. Morrissey pulls it down early. Marked by Lewis. There it is. That's what Australia needed. Andy Chen with a nice upline cut. Great strike out in front of the offense. The disc went high. Defense went early. Kept in Australian hands for a great score as we go 14-2. Great work there by Australia. A hard-fought hold. They had to work for it, despite great defensive pressure by New Zealand. Back and forth, possession went. But Australia able to walk away with it. And now to come out on defense against a fierce offensive side from the New Zealand team. Finn Collins, Bryn Douglas, Hugo Swinson, Josh Cooper, Jack Lewis. Some great all-rounder players, players with long throws, players with great foot speed. A critical point for the Australians to stay in it. There's the pull. Beautiful length. Plenty of time for Australia to get all the way down there. Douglas and Swinson early. Lewis with a cut, but it's pressured. Douglas again. Finds Woodward. Collins on an up line. Doesn't secure it. Now we go back the other way. Australia with a great opportunity here to put another point on the board. Doing fantastic work. Blackburn applying the pressure there to make sure that stays out of New Zealand hands. Upton trying to hit Yo. Doesn't come. We have to go the other way. Kodar Usman finds Allen. Oh, near sideline. Gets a big bid from Swinson. Taifa puts one high. Who's going to come down with it? Great work by the defense there. Finn Walker managing to generate that turn, going back the other way. A hold opportunity for New Zealand now as they set up a vertical stack. The call from Australia, no unders, looking to pressure those longer throws where they might be able to contest them in these conditions. Douglas easily able to work with Swinson to get the disc around. There it is. That's what you want to see. Kodar Usman doesn't send it. Instead, looks to find McGregor near sideline. Back to Kodar Usman, who might be able to close this one out for Australia here. Upton. Just needing patience. Blackburn gets looked off, but is able to thread through on a short one. Quick find, Upton. Back to Allen. Right on the doorstep. He's signaling. McGregor wanted it, but it wasn't on. Collins applying too much pressure on that defensive mark. Looks back, finds Blackburn. There it is. Big crossfield shot. Who's going to get there? Ooh, just outside McGregor's hands. Or possibly just outside McGregor's ability to get to where the space was. It was a beautifully weighted throw, but could have been halted for an extra second to give the offense an opportunity to react to it. New Zealand now with a full field ahead of them. That same handler core, except we're seeing extra support now. Lewis joins Swinson and Douglas in the upfield space. A great bid by Kodar Usman, but it is not going to get him the disc. Some good communication there. Great spirited play there. New Zealand in the danger zone. Slowly being forced backwards. Swinson finds Douglas. Early one goes to Walker. They put a big shot up, looking for Cooper. Upton's underneath it, but Cooper comes down just outside the end zone, wanting to finish this one off. There it is! Cooper to Walker for the score, 15-2. New Zealand over Australia. What a thrilling conclusion to the second match of our tri-series. The under-20 men's versus the under-20 women's team. Under-20 men's New Zealand versus the under-20 men's Australian team. Great performance by both of these sides, but on this day in Tamaki and Makaurau, it does go to New Zealand. What a fantastic effort. My name is Blair Monroe, proudly supported and working with Alti TV to bring you this fantastic coverage. But until the next one, thanks very much for watching.